Hey guys, good evening. Welcome to the class. How are all of you doing? I hope your board preparations are going nice. Yes? Is it? It's going great? Okay, okay. Well, uh, sorry. Sorry, I forgot to switch on the video. Okay, so guys, welcome to the class first of all, and so today we are doing the chapter "How do organisms reproduce?" Right. So let's not waste any time soon, and let's start directly into the chapter. So what all things do you need in this particular chapter? We'll first start with a discussion of that, and then we'll dig into the questions that have appeared in the last board exams and some practice sample papers which have come from the CBSC, right? So reproduction, we should understand first that reproduction is not a life process, rather than that it is something that is necessary for the continuation of life itself, right? Now reproduction can be divided into two types: sexual and asexual reproduction. Now guys, this is something that most of the people skip. Okay, and this is something that is very that can be asked in several ways. So you can straight away be asked what are the differences between sexual and asexual reproduction. Okay, so make sure you understand the difference that in the sexual reproduction, gametes are produced and fused, whereas in asexual reproduction, the process happens without the involvement of gametes, right? Now, the asexual reproduction starts in several organisms, and you have several types of asexual reproduction, which you must understand. It is not a defining feature for mule. Yes, Supreme, that's correct. See, mules are hybrids from donkeys and horses, right? So when you go in higher standards, you'll get to know more about it. Don't worry. So asexual reproduction can be of several types, like fission, which happens in amoeba. So you should remember an example each. That's all that is required at this level. Okay. So amoeba budding can happen in hydra. So remember an example each, and also you should be able to draw them. Okay. Now, spore generation. Spore generation generally happens in fungus, right? Then you come to understand regeneration, which is generally a characteristic of, come on, give me the answer for that. Planaria, right? Now then comes fragmentation, which generally happens in Spirogyra. Vegetative reproduction in plants, very important, because there you have a lot of types: vegetative reproduction via stems, via roots, stem cutting, right? Scion and stalk. Be sure that you remember what's a scion, what's a stalk. So stalk is the part of the plant that has the root, and scion is the part of the plant that has the stem, right? Then you come to the tissue culture. What you need to know in the tissue culture is just the basic definition, nothing more. Okay, then we come to the sexual reproduction. Now, sexual reproduction we have to study in plants, right? And we have to study in animals, and more specifically, humans, right? So in plants, we know the flower is a reproductive part of the plant body, and flower has several holes, WHORLS. You should be aware of all the four, that is calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium, right? Now individual names are also important. For calyx it's sepal, for corolla it's petal, for androecium it's stamen, for gynoecium it's pistil. Stamen and pistil are the male and the female part. So male is stamen and the female is pistil. They will respectively produce the male and female gametes. So stamen produces pollens, right? And pistil produces ova inside ovule, right? I will come to double fertilization, Devakant. Don't worry. So the pollens are transferred by the process of pollination. There can be several agents of pollination, wind, insects, and stuff, right? The pollens land on pistil, and pistil has three parts: stigma, stylus, ovary. Stigma receives the pollen, and from there it goes down to enter the ovule. Now, here what happens? First, fertilization happens of the egg cell, and secondly, the two nuclei which are present in the mid of the ovule also get fertilized. So two of ovule and one which comes from the pollen grain. So that becomes 3n, and that is the endosperm. Now, because the fertilizations are happening at two levels here, one of the egg and one of the endosperm nuclei, that is why it's called double fertilization, right? Then you need to understand what happens after this. So the over fertilization of over leads to formation of zygote. Zygote further develops into the embryo. Embryo matures inside the ovule, right? And ovule is encased inside ovary. Ovary develops into the fruit, and ovule develops into the seed, right? And this will give rise to the future plant after germination. So you need to be aware of the entire process in brief. And also you can be asked to draw a flower, you can be asked to draw a stamen or a pistil in detail. Okay. Or you can be also asked to draw the process of fertilization itself. Very important. Then we come to the sexual reproduction in humans, right? So as in case of the plants, we studied the male and the female systems, that is the stamen and pistil. Synergids and antipodals are basically the cells inside the ovule. Okay, you don't need to know their positioning at this stage. Don't worry about that, Supriya. Okay, if at all what you want to draw, this is what you can draw. Three here, three here, two nuclei here. This, the middle cell is the egg cell. That's it. Don't worry about it, anything else. Then we come to humans. So humans have the male and female reproductive system. You should be able to draw or label both of them. So you can be asked to draw a male or a female reproductive system, or you can be asked to label as well. Make sure you know both of them. Now, you should be aware of the gonads, which are the sorry, the gamete producing organs in the humans, right? For males, it's testes. For females, it's ovary, right? Now, you should be also aware of sperm and ova, right? So sperm is the gamete for males and ova is the gamete for females. Especially remember the structure of sperm. It has been asked numerous times and it can be asked as well. So this is something that can be asked directly. Now, as in all cases of sexual reproduction, the male and the female gamete will fuse together to form zygote, which is the same case that happens in case of humans as well. So zygote forms and the fertilization happens in the oviduct. This can be asked as a one marker as well. Okay. Yes, a flower diagram is also asked certain times, Anushka. Make sure you know that. Okay. Now, oviduct is a place where fertilization is happening. After the fertilization happens, the zygote starts dividing. Supreme, don't write extra. I will tell you about how to write well in the answers at the latest stage of this discussion. Don't worry. Okay. So zygote further starts to develop, right? So zygote starts to divide, and after division, it starts to form the embryo, and it implants itself. Implants is the attachment. Implantation is the attachment of the developing embryo onto the wall of the uterus. That process is implantation, and it happens at the stage of blastocyte. Remember this word because this can also be asked as a fill up. Okay. Zygote is the immediate product of fertilization. It's a single cell formed from the fusion of the sperm and ova. Okay. Zygote starts to divide and forms the embryo until it develops the characteristics that can be easily identifiable as humans. When it has developed into those characteristics, we start calling it fetus, right? So fetus grows and develops into the baby. So gestation is a period that takes that is from the fertilization to the final development of the baby, which is, we know, 280 days in case of humans. Blastocyte, see, as I said, the zygote starts to divide. So one cell will become two, and so on, right? So one cell goes on to become two, two, to become a ball of cells. So similarly, it starts and finally forms a hollow sphere of cells where you have a cavity. So this hollow shape of cells where you have a cavity is called blastocyte. Gastrulation, Suprium, is way beyond your CBSE board scope. Don't worry. Okay. Then comes the part where you have to deal with reproductive health. Now, reproductive health, you basically deal with unwanted pregnancies and contraceptives. Now, the questions generally come from contraceptives. Okay. So, physical, chemical, or mechanical, physical, chemical, and uh, these contraceptives are important to be known. It can be asked to draw or to just explain. Yes, condom is one of them, Gopi Krishnan. Then you should be aware about the STDs, right? HIV, gonorrhea, syphilis. Okay. Uh, AIDS is the syndrome. It is caused by the HIV virus. Okay. Surgical method, yes, Supreme. The vasectomy and tubectomy, you should be aware of the differences. Okay, that's all. You won't be asked to draw, but you should be aware about the differences between the two. Okay, now having discussed this, let's go into the questions that have appeared in the last exams. Before that, what are the important things? Something, yes, Supreme STDs are asked. Okay, you should remember at least two examples. Okay, and you should also remember their causative organisms. For example, AIDS, you should remember HIV. For gonorrhea, you should know Neisseria gonorrhea. How to explain the development of embryo? I'll explain the division of zygote to implantation yesterday. See, you if they ask the development, you start with zygote, go to implantation, go to embryo, okay? Then talk about the sacs. What are the sacs that you need to talk about? Amnion, chorion, then the connecting structure, placenta, and then the umbilical cord. Then the gestation period of 280 days. This is what you need to tell if you are asked about that. Okay. Copulation is the act of transfer of sperms to the female's body. Okay. Make sure you're not missing any of these points. Now, male and female reproductive system, you can be asked to draw, as I already mentioned, or you can be asked to name. Methods of contraception is very frequently asked question, so make sure you don't miss on that. Now, practical based question: reproduction of amoeba and yeast. Now, amoeba goes for fission. So you should be knowing what is fission, and you should be knowing diagram of placenta doesn't comes generally Anuya, but make sure you are prepared with that. What do you need to draw if that comes? You need to draw the chorion. First thing, you need to draw the amnion, then the baby inside. You don't need a very great diagram of the baby, don't worry about it. And then you need to be able to draw the chorionic villi. Now, this I am not actually producing a very accurate diagram here that's in your book, but this is chorionic villi, right? And you can draw here the mother's environment. That's it. Okay, so you should be able to explain each of these structures, the function of the umbilical cord, the chorionic villi, amnion, and the exchange of the waste and glucose. Yes, Jack, it very much comes. Okay. Now, reproduction in amoeba and yeast should be known via diagrams. So, amoeba, binary fission. For yeast, we already know. Can you give me the answer? Yeast. Can we give? Can I have the answer from you for yeast? Yes, that's very correct. Budding. So you should be able to draw these. Somebody was asking about variation. See, because of the paucity of time that I am limited by here, I can't discuss variations in detail. But what I can tell you right now, variations can happen because of changes in DNA, right? And because in sexual reproduction, you are bringing gametes from two different individuals, you are mixing or creating combinations of different genetic materials, which has chances of giving rise to more variations. Furthermore, because in the development of gametes, the process is known as meiosis. After meiosis, only the gametes develop. There's a process called crossing over, which further increases the chances of variations, which gives more scope for evolution. Prasad, post-fertilization changes in plants. We'll discuss that. That's a question. We'll discuss that. Genetic combination is a set of genes that you have in a particular individual. Okay. Now these are the questions from the last board paper, last board question paper. So one main difference between asexual and sexual mode reproduction, which we already discussed, the involvement of gametes. Which species has a comparatively greater chances of survival? We know that is sexual because more variations are produced. Hence, more chances of adaptation will be there. Nishita, we discussed double fertilization, my dear, but if it comes as a question, I will discuss it again. No worries. This is the last year's paper. Okay. Now, write the function of the following parts. As I said, female reproductive or male reproductive system can come at any form. So ovary, we know, produces ova. Oviduct conducts or make is a path for sperm and ova, right? Sperm reaches the ovary through oviduct. So no, the ova through oviduct, and in midway the fertilization happens, and from there the zygote travels to the uterus for implantation. Uterus provides the environment for growth of the embryo. If the egg is not fertilized, it's disposed of via uterus and cervix. Okay, Dogini. Next is the brief structure and function of placenta. As someone asked, and I explained in the last part, the brief structure of placenta. Remember what you got to talk about in placenta? The amnion, the chorionic villi, and you need to talk about the function exchange of nutrients, waste, gases. Okay, these are three important functions of the placenta. Now, these are the questions that appeared in the practical section after embryo gets implanted. See, you'll talk about the development of organs. You'll talk about the formation of chambers like amniotic cavity and the amnion and chorion. You'll talk about the umbilical cord, the function of the placenta. That's all that you have to talk about. Okay. Now, name the process by which amoeba reproduce and draw a proper sequence. Now, we know amoeba reproduces by binary fission. So you should be able to draw the binary fission. Okay. Right. So if this is my amoeba, I will have a nucleus. So first, the nucleus is duplicated. So I will have 2. And then the cytoplasm as well. I finally have my 2 daughter nuclei, right? So you should be able to draw that. Now, a student is viewing under a microscope a permanent slide showing various asexual reproduction by budding in yeast. Draw proper diagrams. As I said, the binary fission and yeast, binary fission and the budding are the processes which can be asked. Ajay, budding is very simple. Let's say you have a hydra. Okay, what happens is an outgrowth develops. I'm using 2 colors just to make sure that you understand the difference. So this is an outgrowth. This is an outgrowth. Gradually, this outgrowth starts to develop more and more. So here's my hydra again. And this time, the outgrowth starts to take shape of a mini hydra. It might remain attached or it might get off the body. So in the final stage, we might have two hydras, one the original one and one the daughter hydra. Okay, so you should be able to make sure that you are drawing this clearly. Wait, let me go back to that question. No, they're just asking you to describe, so don't draw. If they're not asking, don't draw. Supreme, if the time remains, I will discuss crossing over. Don't worry, at the end. Okay. Now, in the flowering plant, summarize the events that take place after fertilization. Someone asked this question as well. So after fertilization, so first, obviously, we have the zygote. Zygote turns into embryo, right? So this is my zygote. Zygote will start to divide initially, and then we see the formation of the cotyledons. So these two structures are cotyledons. And remember, all of this is happening inside the ovule. I haven't drawn ovule, but all of this is happening inside ovule, right? Then at this stage, there are small cotyledons, the seed leaves that will absorb the nutrition from the endosperm. Remember the endosperm? Sorry, let me use some other color. Yeah. So the surrounding tissue is still the endosperm, right? And then what you can talk about is the germination. When the seed will find appropriate habitat, then it will further germinate to give rise to the plant. Yes, sepals petals fall down. In some, it may remain attached. Okay. Now draw the diagram of female reproductive system. As I said, it can be asked, and mark the following, where block is created surgically to prevent the fertilization. Now you know this happens with the oviduct. Copper T. Copper T is a T-shaped structure, right? So it starts releasing copper ions, which hampers the motility of the sperms, also does not allows proper implantation. So in what, see, I explained it via diagram, okay, but wait, someone, Devokant, I explained question one via diagrams, but you can only talk about steps. If you are able to draw diagrams, that's easy. Because here diagrams are not so complicated, but it's better you just simply write the steps. Copper T is inserted in the uterus, in which condom can be placed. So the female condoms are placed generally in the cervix area. Okay. Now, why do more and more people prefer to use condoms? What is the principle behind the use of condoms? Now, the principle behind the use of condom is it's a physical barrier. Am I correct? It will not allow the sperm to reach inside the female's body. Why do more people prefer to use it? Because it's easy, it's cheap, right? It's easy and cheap. That's why it's very easily used and it's easily disposable. So first, it's very easy. It has a high effective rate, right? Second, it's reversible, right? So when we, for example, vasectomy and tubectomy are not reversible processes. They are surgical methods. If you use it, you have to, you can't reverse it. But this is something that one can decide on his own will. So, the third thing is, it does not have side effects. If we talk about the chemical methods, the hormonal secretions, the hormonal formulations, they all have side effects, but these don't have side effects. Pinky, vegetative propagation is when you're using a vegetative part of the plant body for reproduction. Okay, we use several, for example, stem in case of potatoes, we use root in case of dahlia, Okay, we use leaves in case of bryophyllum, right? So there are several examples. You should remember one per. You soak seeds of bean and observe them after 2 days. What will you observe? Now, seeds of bean. So we are basically observing the process of germination. Am I correct? Right? So what will be your observation? So after a few days, what we generally see is roots out of it. And if you leave it for more time, you'll also see a shoot and a leaf, right? So you should be able to express this. Next question comes under when observed in a high power of the microscope, chain of buds is visible in the microscopic view. In which organism can this be absorbed? Can someone give me answer for this question? A chain of organisms. That is true. Yes. And you should do well to write the examples as well. Hydra, but in the chain, it's best to write yeast and not hydra. Okay. Now, some points that you should remember while answering the questions. Practice all diagram. This chapter is a diagram intensive one. Practice all the diagram, male and female reproductive systems, structure of a flower, structure of a sperm. These are diagrams which have been asked in some past papers and in boards. Practice the diagram of binary fission, the diagram of budding of yeast. Very important. How to show regeneration in hydra. For regeneration, we generally use planaria. It's a better and well discussed example. Use this. We use vegetative propagation palak. The reason is the advantages that it offers. Vegetative propagation, you are not dependent on seasons. You don't have to wait for flowers. You can do, we can carry out vegetative propagation by using the vegetative structures. It produces the same type of the organism, right? So if you want to preserve a character or a trait that you have found in in a particular variety, then you use the vegetative propagation. Like we did not want seeds inside bananas. That is why we have found a variety of banana and we cultivate it via vegetative methods. Answer the questions with diagrams or flowcharts. So as I said, in case of binary fission, if they ask you binary fission, if it's even a two marker, draw a diagram. Diagrams here can be simple. You don't need to be very exact in diagrams. Okay, but draw diagrams. Lizards in regeneration, yes, you can give, but remember that is not reproduction. So don't give better. You use if you want to for reproduction. If you want to use regeneration, you can use for planaria. Don't use lizards because for lizards they're not reproducing when they regenerate, right? And the chapter is reproduction, not regeneration, right? So don't use lizards. Rather than that, use planaria because planaria reproduces, creates more copy, right? Now, don't forget to revise the chapter once you're done because there are several minute things that you'll miss in the chapter if you forget. Vasectomy, tubectomy, examples of fungi, crossing over. I will discuss that. We still have a 2 minutes time. I will discuss that. Don't worry. Follow mark plus one scheme. If you have a two marker question, there should be 3 points plus examples if it's possible. If there are no examples, 4 points. Points does not mean sentences. Okay, so points, individual points. Crossing over is nothing. Suppose this is a chromosome and it's these are chromatids and they are homologous chromosome. So the non-sister chromosomes, sorry, my bad. The non-sister chromosomes exchange the genetic material by crossing over. So this ends up creating more variations in sexual reproduction. That is why we say sexual reproduction ends up creating more variations. Okay. Now, that brings us to the end of the chapter for our discussion. You can always reach us for more. Okay. Diagram of the fallopian tube, I don't have it as of now. And you should also only follow diagrams that are there in the NCRT. Don't follow complicated diagrams as of now. Okay, so that's me signing off, and I hope you were able to benefit from this session, and try your best to revise everything, and then all the best for the exams, right? Bye guys.